Days ahead, Nitroid, Apache Smash, and Fingers. Are you listening? This is your mission. That is to interview an actor called Jim Piddock, who is otherwise known as Major Zero. Not fail in this mission, or there will be repercussions.
Hey, I'm Fingers.
Yo, it's Apache Smash.
Hey everyone, this is Days Ahead.
And I'm Nitroid. You're listening to the Kojima Frequency.
It's an honor. We got Mr. Jim Piddock here. I mean, this is pretty wild.
Yeah, I don't do too many Metal Gear things. I've sort of, I don't know why. I mean, it's not deliberate. It's just that I focused on so many other things.
Yeah, we're kind of a little niche, little subgroup here. I mean, there's a ton of us, but yeah, I mean, with as much stuff as you do, I mean, across all the different mediums, I mean, yeah, I'm sure it's just one little portion of all the things you got going on.
Yeah, I mean, to a degree, yes, it is. I suppose it is, but it's quite a big audience there, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, and passionate. I mean, let's kind of be frank here. We're sort of trying to build up from what little we have, and yet look how much we still have going on. I mean, we've got like a whole convention trying to be put together now. I mean, we've got this podcast, and I have a little bit of the jitters myself, for a lot of reasons, but yeah.
Which, by the way, I do want to just say really quick, we've been talking about that convention for a while. The Kickstarter is live for that, so if y'all are listening and want to support that, go to mgscon.com and check that out. But just wanted to get that out of the way here before we dive into stuff.
Where and when are you doing your convention?
It's in July. It's in LA, I believe.
In LA. Okay, that's the one someone asked me about, and I couldn't do because I'm going to be away.
Yeah. I was about to say you were probably asked about it. Yeah.
I'm in Europe. Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah. No, I'd love to do something like that. As I say, I've sort of just recently got persuaded by the guys at Streamily to go on their site, streamily.com, and offer signed photos and stuff, and with videos of me signing it. I couldn't do any live because it's just too difficult for me to time it. I mean, I could, but it's too much for hassle.
Yeah.
So I do it off. They call it, I can't remember, off camera or something. It's not off camera because you have to video it, but it's offline.
Yeah, it's not live.
Yeah, exactly. Anytime. That's what they call it. Sign anytime. That's what they call it. Which works better for me.
I just think it's great that you take the time out of your schedule to do these sorts of things. I mean, as much as we might love Metal Gear, I mean, looking at your career, it's vast to say the least.
It's pretty wide, yeah. It is. I mean, I enjoy doing these things. It's just, again, if I'm not too overamped, I enjoy it. I got a little burnt out last year. I had a book come out last March called Caught with My Pants Down and Other Tales from a Life in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
I think I did around 100 interviews on the book tour and on whatever. And it was kind of a nightmare. By the end of that, I was really burnt out by the kind of midsummer.
Yeah, but you're like, no more podcasts.
And by the way, that book, I just got an email today from the publisher saying for some reason they have two accounts, the publisher. Amazon, because they have two accounts, took all these accounts down. So the book is available, but not on Amazon for another day or two again.
I actually went looking for it today. Yeah.
Yeah, it's bizarre. I mean, you can get it anywhere. You can get it on other outlets, but Amazon's the best one. And hopefully that'll be up there again in a couple of days' time. It's pretty unusual, but I think Amazon's very strange. It's very glitchy. But anyway, it's there. It's around. You can find it on all sorts of places. And if you like listening, the audiobook is actually, if Audible has the audiobook, and that is that I think I can recommend highly. People seem to like that.
Is that narrated by you, or?
It is narrated by me. I did it during the pandemic. I narrated it in my walk-in closet because that was my studio.
Nice.
I only recently became aware of the book, and when I saw the cover, I lost it.
Yeah, it's pretty tasteless. Now,
I especially love the foreplay by Eric Idle at the bottom.
yeah. It's definitely out there. It seems to be very popular, so that's nice. I'm happy to say.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to checking it out.
You have to, I was going back to Amazon. You really do have to appreciate their dedication to keeping their webpage like stuck in the 90s. So I'm glad it works that way in the back end as well. What
It's crazy. They wouldn't let me. They wouldn't let the publishers or me, sponsor but advertise it because they thought that the cover was sexually suggestive.
Oh, wow.
Really?
So Amazon,
Really?
it's astonishing. And I found several covers of seriously pornographic books that they were allowing to be sponsored, and I pointed that out. It just made them angry. They didn't seem to get it.
Never mind the amount of product fraud.
You're just Donald Ducking it. I mean, that's all that's nothing really crude. I mean, I don't know.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. They said it's a sexually suggestive pose, and the title. And I said, I think there's an expression called "caught with my pants on," which means caught off guard. That's really what it's about, and it actually refers to a story that happened to me in real life. Something that happened a couple of times, where I was literally caught, but it was nothing remotely sexual. It's just embarrassing. But they're very weird at Amazon. They're very, very weird. They're happy to take your money, and they're happy to sell all sorts of dreadful stuff. But something like that, I don't know. I mean, seriously, sexually suggestive.
They flinch at slapstick.
Yeah, sexually suggestive. Wow. Amazing. Great to be a sex symbol when you're in your 60s.
There's a joke out there about Zero being a sex symbol, but I'm not going to try for it.
It's the accent.
Go for it. I'd probably fail miserably.
Well, we were all really nervous about how, to what extent we would even talk about the character here. We didn't want to be weirdos about, hey,
oh, we're way past that.
Do you know on line 7 on your script, shit like that. We just wanted to appreciate Jim as a whole, but
very very wise, because you know far more about Metal Gear Solid than I do. I'm one of those people.
I watched the interview with you on the Kodak, and you were kind of talking about how you really hadn't dove into the lore and stuff, and didn't know too much about Zero's character, and how when he had turned evil, that was kind of news to you. That was kind of broke to you on that episode there. But
it sounds really unprofessional, but it's very different in voiceover. You sort of show up and say the lines, and if you don't play the game, or and I don't think they give you the whole script. You just get your lines. So I go in on day after day after day and record with David Hayter or whoever it was. And I don't really play video games, so I don't know what the game's about really. So
yeah, I was curious if you did any follow up since then, if you had dove into any of the online movie versions of it or anything like that on YouTube or.
I've seen sort of clips here and there. I mean, I was pleasantly surprised when I saw how I looked. It was oh, that's what he looks like. That was probably a year or two after the fact. So it's a weird disconnect, because normally, I'm quite heavy on research when I do work on camera. So it's very odd.
How do you approach a performance like that when you don't really have any context to attach to it?
You can only go from what you see on the page, and they don't really give you even a character description. I don't remember having a character description.
Oh, wow.
So you kind of just go, I mean, it goes back to the origins of theatre, and, if you're presented with a Shakespeare play, what you see is what you get. You have to derive your character from what's on the page.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no sort of description of, this is X is in his 60s and he's got this backstory here and there and all that. You don't have any of that. So it's pretty primal in terms of just really letting the text tell you who this guy is.
What you say that, you kind of define the character through the text. And I would say that, Zero has a few very charismatic lines. I don't want to try to trivia you on any of them, but do you remember any particular line or phrase that he said that helped you sort of paint that picture?
Well, I think doing these types of things has forced me to sort of go back and look at what people seem to remember. And obviously, Spread Your Wings and Fly, God be with you, is sort of one that people seem to want either inscribed on the signed photos or whatever. That phrase seems to be a big one.
Yeah.
And there's a few others that people request, and thankfully they'll tell me the line and I'll scribble it down and sign it. And there's some stuff about 007 and James Bond. So that there are those, but I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but that seems to be Spread Your Wings and Fly. Seemed to be something that everyone associated with the character.
It's I really did enjoy your performance in it. That the dialogue in these games tends to be very uncanny, given how it's written in Japanese, translated to English, and then it sort of has to make these cultural jumps if the characters are coming from different backgrounds. So there's a lot of strangeness to how it's written. That's kind of idiosyncratic to the series, but not something you typically see in other media. Did it seem kind of strange to you that you can recall?
Not really. I mean, it seemed very dry and very British and very military in terms of it was, curt and I wouldn't say humorless, but businesslike. Certainly businesslike and dry. And if there was humor there, it was dry or wry humor. So that worked for me. Obviously, I must have read for it. I don't remember just being offered it cold, because when I did these games, my career was in it hadn't sort of taken off in a big way. So it was kind of, I must have read for it, and the voice must have sounded like what they wanted. So I guess that kind of, I knew that I was, on the right lines.
I remember hearing you say you kind of tapped into that, just that proper British officer, type of just like, just how they kind of spoke, and it was, very direct and, matter of fact. And
yeah, pretty much no nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I remember a lot of my stuff was with David Hayter, and so it was quite easy because we kind of had a rhythm that worked.
So they did a lot of the conversations with like a more back and forth, it wasn't just isolated.
Yeah, no, it was, often it would just be him and me in the studio, but we kind of we found a rhythm fairly quickly, and we kind of we hit we had a lot to talk about off mic as well, because we're both writers, and so we would talk a lot about screenwriting and stuff. So it was quite easy to just slide straight into a sort of some kind of relationship that was established when we were in front of the mics.
Interesting. That's a dynamic I didn't even think of. The whole like being writers, huh?
It's funny, again, sort of looking at the body of your work in comparison to this game from almost 20 years ago, and we're asking you these detailed questions.
Well, it's also like I either ask him about Metal Gear or I ask him about Christopher Guest, and it's like I only get paid to do one of those things.
Right. And I have to wonder, with as many things as you've done, is there any other piece of work that sort of you would say inspires sort of a similar fervor from its fans?
Yeah, I think the Christopher Guest films obviously have a
Yes.
huge cult following.
Yeah.
Darn it.
So, I mean,
That's
I'm
right.
probably, people say, what are you best known for? I would think it would be the Christopher Guest movies. Although, having said that, there's a lot of people that have seen Friends. I only did one episode of Friends, but if you're in that Friends franchise, people all over the world of many generations have seen them. So that's kind of, that happens quite a bit. And then even going way back to the first film I ever did, Lethal Weapon 2, there's people that still come up to me and quote lines from that.
Oh gosh, I would imagine.
Which is good. I can only remember one line from that. Like, I forget all, I mean, it's those things go in and out for me. It comes from sort of doing weekly rep when I started, where you learn a play one week and then you do another one the next week. So you have a short-term memory thing where you can remember stuff and then you move on. It's gone. It's like the computer just can't hold all that information for that amount of time.
You gotta delete some pictures.
film trivia is not my strength, so I've sort of had to go back and refamiliarize myself with what I've seen you in, and I'm looking through this list and I'm like, oh my gosh, he's been in so many things that I've watched. I didn't know you were in Independence Day.
Yeah.
That threw me.
He got the Morse code, man. Like he got the
I
Morse
know,
code
and
guy.
then it clicked as soon as I saw it.
You're my good friend, and I feel like we have the same sense of humor, and you've never seen Best in Show.
I have not.
Oh my god. It's perfect. Okay, we gotta talk about this later. Sorry.
That will be an intervention later.
It'll change your life. Yes, Independence Day, about bloody time. That was the line everyone remembers.
I can hear it in my mind clear as day. As soon as I saw your name there, I was like, I know exactly who he was.
Yeah.
But I've been looking through the list and just having that realization for like, work after work after work, and it's incredible.
Head of the rest of the world. Yeah, no, it's a weird thing because I'm not super recognizable in terms of the fact that I've been a character actor my whole life. People recognize me from certain things, but I often disguise myself. But I sometimes meet people, and especially younger generations, and they go, "Oh, what have you been in?" And I'll say, "Well, I don't want to get into that conversation because we'll be here all day. I'll just be reciting my resume."
It's kind of a patronizing question, isn't it?
Well, it is, of course it is, yeah. But I'm always, well, not always. I'm usually very polite. I should probably kind of wager this. I should probably say, I bet you amount of dollars. But I always say to them, I guarantee you that you have seen me in something.
Yeah.
I've never lost that. I've never lost that. Because it's just, there's such a wide array of stuff that even if you don't know my face and don't recognize my name, 10 out of 10 people I should probably do this actually. I should just hang out in bars and say, hey, I bet you $100 you've seen me in something. Go, no, I don't know who you are. Ah.
Oh, you can make a killing.
Oh,
You seen Lethal Weapon 2? And they're like, shit.
I know.
That's your starter right there, yeah.
Just that list. I mean, I don't know what it is. It's about 100 and something 30 things. Over 4.5 decades.
Do you have any funny stories from working with Joe Pesci in that scene, or?
Well, Joe, I mean, I was hired for 3 days to do what was essentially one scene.
Mm-hmm.
It was my first ever film, so I was quite excited. And Joe got sick that week. I think he got flu. So I kept getting bumped. I ended up getting paid for 7 days.
Nice.
Which was great.
I mean, not nice that he got sick, but
Yeah.
Right.
Well, no, but nice. But when we shot it, it was with Danny Glover and Joe. For some reason, Joe found that line of mine, because you're black, when he says, why can't Danny Glover, why can't he emigrate to South Africa, which obviously in those days it was an apartheid country. Stare at him open mouthed and go, because you're black. But it made Joe laugh every time I said it. And so he repeated it ad nauseam in that scene and then later in the movie. And it sort of became a de facto catchphrase for the movie. So in my first film, that line, it's bizarre. I mean, it became one of the best known lines of the film, that and probably diplomatic immunity just revoked at the end, Danny Glover says. So, but it was an odd thing that thanks to Joe, that line of mine became immortalized.
I'm just kind of gobsmacked. That's amazing.
What?
I don't know. I'm kind of at a loss for words. It's got to be incredible to like have been a part of so many of these films and have stories that I can't even begin to imagine.
It was funny. Last night, I'll tell you something very. Last night, the last dream I had before I woke up, dreamt that I was at a table reading for a film. Cary Grant was playing my father, and he said to me, "God, you've got such great energy." And I said, "Well, I don't normally. I'm quite low key, but energized today because I'm so excited about meeting you." Cary Grant probably was old enough to play my grandfather, but it made me very happy. I woke up very happy. But I thought, well, where did that dream come from? And I know where it came from. It came exactly because I have actually been in a situation where I've worked in 2 different films. 2 people I grew up not idolizing, but close to it. to Anthony Hopkins and Michael Caine. I ended up working with both of them and doing scenes with them. And both of them were absolutely delightful. I mean, they were everything you'd want sort of heroes to be.
That's amazing.
And I mean, yeah, Michael Caine was he was just no sense that we weren't equals, or, we were just both in the trenches fighting in the same war. And sit down and he'd want to chat and talk about stuff. And it just was no kind of like, oh, you go over there, I stay here. None of that whatsoever. And he was lovely, delightful. And then Anthony Hopkins, I was in my trailer. It was a Woody Allen film in London. It was shooting in London. I was in my trailer my first day, and there was a knock on the door, and I shouted, come in. I thought it was the AD or someone calling me to set, or wardrobe saying, does your trousers fit or whatever. And the door flew open, and Anthony Hopkins literally leaped into he was 74 years old at the time, leaped into the thing, said, "Oh, I just wanted to tell you, I'm so happy you're doing this film. It's so delightful to have you here." And I was absolutely blown away. I didn't know what to say. I was just like, oh my God, I'm so excited to meet you. And I said, I'm quite a bit nervous because and for so long. Oh, don't be silly. So he said, I was like that with Woody Allen. Don't worry. He was just
Oh my gosh.
like an old friend the whole time we shot. Immediately we'd cut. He'd go, come over here. Tell me about this. And we'd talk and chat. It was so thrilling to meet people who you admired and who were such icons in the business, who were so wonderful. Wonderful. And also, on the comedy side, Eric Idle, who I grew up idolizing, Monty Python, forgive the pun, and Eric and all those guys. So when I got to work with him, I was so excited, and the fact that we became such close friends, and I see or talk to him every other day for the last 20 something years.
That's amazing.
That's so awesome. Yeah.
Yeah,
He is one of the funniest people on the planet.
I love Monty Python. It's just I've watched Holy Grail alone like so many fucking times. I can read all those lines back and forth, but yeah, it's genius.
One of the funniest and smartest people on the planet, and one of the nicest. We spend time together in France. We do it. He's just probably. I actually can't think of anyone in LA who I am in constant touch with, a friend, but he is one.
He's into foreplay, which I think is a sign of kindness. Really, it's kindness and consideration.
He wrote my foreplay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to know. I couldn't. We couldn't hear you at the time when I said it. I don't know if you heard me or not, but I need to know. In the audiobook, does he read the foreplay?
No, he doesn't read the foreplay, which is the one that you don't get in the audiobook, and the pictures, of course, and all the pictures that are in the book. But I can read it to you if you want. I can read you his foreplay. If that would make it'll kill us some time. It'll buy me some time. I can read you his foreplay. God.
I just pictured like now I just pictured Zero going into OPSEC and being like, let me read you Volgan's foreplay for intel's sake.
Exactly.
It's like, okay.
These things seem so amazing to us, but this is just your life, so it's...
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm still kind of at a loss, yeah.
It's got to be really satisfying too to just like meet these people, and they're not like divas or just assholes and stuff. That can kind of run rampant in that business sometimes. But just for them to be like just really cool, that's like awesome. It's great to hear.
The book is very gossipy, and one of the chapters is I start by saying that here's a list of 10 A-listers I've worked with. 9 I absolutely loved, and 1 was a 4 asterisks word. And
you've done a great job of selling this book, by the way. I will be buying a copy.
Yeah.
Well, it's a fun chapter, I have to say, and I don't hold back. In the book, I actually eviscerate 4 people. Whom's dead, so they can't sue me. One of whom is a major A-lister and is one of the worst people I've ever met in the world. And a couple of others are, unpleasant. But so anyway, I don't hold back. I don't care. But on the counter side, I give praise where praise is due. So of these 10 people, the 9, I go through it. So it becomes like a knockout competition. I eliminate one of the people until I get to, by default, to who is the 4 asterisks word, which you can choose which word you like. Then I spend 2 or 3 pages eviscerating that person, and quite rightly so.
Regarding your work with Michael Caine, how many films have you worked with him in? I can think of 2 that you were both in. I know it was The Prestige and Austin Powers, if I remember right.
Yeah, was he in Austin Powers in Goldmember? He might have been. I don't remember.
Yeah, he was Austin Powers' father.
Oh, well, we certainly didn't work together on that. We didn't work together. But so I didn't see him on that. But The Prestige, absolutely. And I didn't work with Mike Myers. In fact, there was a story. I went to see Monty Python's last ever live show at the O2, the closing night, which Eric had invited me to, and I went to see that. And backstage afterwards, I went to say hi and was waiting for them to come out, of their dressing room. And this security guy came up to me and said, "Are you Jim?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Oh, you please come this way. Mike wanted to say hi." Oh, Palin. I don't actually know Palin, but maybe Eric's told him about me or whatever. and I'm not sure why. Anyway, so I followed the security guy. We went through this labyrinth, and I think this is odd because I think the dressing rooms are that way. He led me through here, down there, and then O2 is massive. Out in this bar, this kind of VIP bar, and he says, "This way, this way, this way," and he walks up to the bar, and there's Mike Myers standing there with a drink. And he said, "Here you are, Mike. Here's Jim." And Mike Myers looked at me, and I looked at him. He said, "Hi," and I said, "Hi," and I held out my hand and say, "I'm Jim Piddock," and he said, "Oh, hi, I'm Mike Myers." And we had no idea why this guy had brought me all the way down to meet him.
This is a comedy sketch.
And I said, to break the ice, because it was so awkward, I said, we've actually been in the same film together, but we've never met. And he said, "Oh, what was that?" And I said, "Austin Powers. I played the teacher, the spy teacher." He said, "Oh my God, of course, yeah." And then we chatted for a bit and it was fine. But then it sort of wound down fairly quickly, the conversation. And again, I was like, "Well, thanks. Nice to meet you." And off I went back through the labyrinth to see the people I was supposed to see. But it was weird, very weird. And
you lived a Python sketch at a Python show.
Yeah. It was very, very strange.
That's wow.
That is so funny. Getting led across the entire O2, thinking you're going to meet.
So bizarre. The other thing
that's killed me.
The other bizarre thing that happened that evening was in one of the reception rooms before or after the show. The VIP reception rooms, I got a picture. I snuck a picture of Stephen Hawking talking to, and I know I'm going to forget his name. Do you know the dwarf actor that was in
Vern Troyer?
Life's Too Short, the Ricky Gervais show? He's
yeah.
Is that,
what is he called?
David something, is it? No, I can't remember his name. He was in.
That's not Warwick Davis, is it?
Yes, Warwick Davis, exactly. I saw Warwick Davis talking to Stephen Hawking, and it was such a bizarre, just the odd couple defined. And I managed to get a sneak.
I would watch that show.
I know. I said, this is the next sitcom. I can see it. But I got a great picture of the two of them talking. It was an odd night.
I can't believe they canceled Willow. I'm mad about that.
Oh, right. I forgot they made a series about that.
I've got nothing to offer you there.
It's okay. Neither does Disney.
Speaking of streaming and all that, like, have you do you have like a preference for, like, if you're getting offers for either a film role or something that's going to go on streaming, like is it still kind of a knife fight out here with like royalties and split payments and stuff like that as far as streaming shows go?
It's a little different on each platform. To be honest with you, I don't think about that when I'm either offered a job or asked if I'm interested. I really don't think about. I just think about whether it would be fun to do.
Mm-hmm.
Sole criteria. I don't think about the kind of secondary income stuff like that. That
Yeah.
takes care of itself.
Plus, I know with video games, most of the time it's like a one-off type deal where you're not getting the royalties and stuff like that. So I wasn't sure if there was more of a incentive to do those types of project versus the video game projects.
Well, you may or may not have seen I've given interviews where I've explained why I didn't return to do Major Zero because of that. Money was so ridiculous.
We're all definitely aware of that whole scenario, and it sucks that's
Yeah.
Some other actors did the same thing.
And we're on your side.
Well, I wasn't trying to be an asshole or be, prima donna.
no,
It's
you're
just-
not. Yeah.
No one thinks that.
Trust me, yeah.
It was just like, well, why would I do that? You guys made billions off those games,
hmm
and if I was a lead character in a movie that made that money, you'd be driving up Brinks trucks to my front door. So why would you think that I would do it for half the money you paid me the first time when I wasn't well known at all?
Yeah.
Nobody knew it was, and it's like, I mean, it is literally on principle. I'd been happy to do it. I love working. I
Mhm.
love the people involved. I love the actors. And so for me to turn down something that's, appealing and would have been fun, there has to be a major principle involved. And there was in that. And I think you have to do that. I mean, again, I hate to talk about it, but I do establish in the book a reason. I've been quite a good businessman in my life, and there's a
Yeah.
reason. It's because you have to draw the line somewhere.
Agreed.
And,
Yeah.
and I've kind of drawn the line on 2 or 3 things, and I explain how that happens. And I hope for young actors or anybody, in any profession, you have to put a value on what you do.
Mhm.
Yes.
It will be devalued by everyone and anyone who will take advantage of that. Sometimes you lose out.
There's also sort of a weird dynamic with video games where they sort of want to have their cake and eat it too. There are all these conversations about how video games should be taken more seriously, like film,
Yep.
aspiring to be more film-like, but then at the same time they don't really run the industry in the same way as film with the same standards. It's very strange.
Yeah, it is. It's an odd, and it's never. I mean, considering how long they've been around, it's incredible that the unions haven't figured out a way to protect actors on video games. It's pretty stunning, actually.
Yeah, you guys should definitely be getting some type of, offshoot royalty payments after the fact with just, for how involved you are with it.
I would think so. Yeah, based on sales. I mean,
Mhm. Yeah, of course.
It's not rocket science.
No.
It's not particularly difficult.
The people who bring to life these characters mean a lot to the people who play the games, and the money should be, the money should have been spent to secure you in that role. In all honesty, I think it was people are on your side in that argument big time.
Oh well, thank you. I mean, I hope. I know. I saw some actress did the same thing. She stood her ground, and I thought, good for you.
Yeah, but she was bullshitting. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it's.
She embellished a bit, yeah.
Oh, really?
But there is a that it was an exception against a rule. However, it's certainly a precedence in the industry that even though her story had some finagling with it, it brought out so many other stories of actors who they had these iconic roles where they they were a major character in a video game, but they got less out of it than like royalties for like a very minor character in a show, for example. So while that story again was a bit embellished in a way, it was an exception against the rule, and a lot of voice actors came out and showed that unfortunately it's an uphill battle for them in this industry. And you're right, like how has like a union not kind of stepped in at this point? I'm not sure why, but it's certainly something that needs to be improved.
It's ridiculous if you consider. I did a shot 3 or 4 days on a show called The Blacklist, which is on it. Is it on NBC? The Blacklist.
I believe so.
I shot that with James Spader. I shot that show. It's in its 10th season, I think. I shot that last April or whatever. I went in for 3 or 4 days. It was a decent role, and I earned more in those 3 or 4 days, as much as I did for all the Metal Gear Solid games.
Wow.
That's ludicrous.
Wow.
And you did like 8 full days of recording for Metal Gear Solid 3. I remember you saying like that's a lot of recording.
Well, the original, yeah. And then I had to go back. To other stuff, and then they cut it up and used it for more games.
That's what's really ridiculous about what Konami said is they were like, well, hey, the reason they were trying to give you such a low price was like, hey, your character is not going to be seen, so technically, that's such bullshit. Like, it's like
That's an even worse excuse.
yeah,
I was
it's like we're fucking video games here. Like none of us are on camera. Goddamn it! Like I don't know. That's bullshit.
It's insane.
Yeah,
insane.
It's kind of funny to hear this talk about. To hear it brought up about how there should the union should be figuring this out. The first Metal Gear Solid game was a non-union job, and several of the actors, in order to not get in trouble with SAG-AFTRA, decided to use pen names in the credits.
Sean Barker.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, James Flinders
David
for
Hayter
Cam
was-
Clark. Yeah,
I called him James Flinders. I called him Cam Flinders for a while,
Cam
because, like,
Flinders.
just because of my brain fucked it up. But yeah,
Wow.
David Hayter was Sean Barker.
he went by the Guyver name. Yeah,
Wow. Wow. Yeah, it's weird, and the argument that because it's not on camera is ludicrous. Because again, I've done an hour, not even an hour. I've gone in to do an animation job that's taken me probably 40 minutes to do. I've earned more than I did in that 40 minutes than I did for the whole of the Metal Gear Solid stuff. So it doesn't make any sense.
It's you literally just like laid out that Simpsons joke where that voice actor, they just use her meep meep. They just 2 seconds of recording and they used it over and over again. Like that's literally what you just Konami literally did that.
yeah. They did splice up some of those original lines and just used them in other projects for it, or
Correct. You had to pay you a tiny little bit something extra, but it's pretty ludicrous. Pretty ludicrous. But anyway, we don't want to bitch about that all day.
yeah.
My bitch about that, and I've moved on.
That's always good. Yeah.
Going past that, when you do complete work on something, how often do you go back and look at what you've worked on? Do you watch the movies? I know with Metal Gear you don't really play games, but
No, it's a very interesting question. I sometimes watch what I've done. I suppose I usually do, but I'll often fast forward through it too. I prefer the doing because the longer I've been doing this, Zen part of it for me is the actual doing of it. Can't control how it looks or how it ends up. So I enjoy the process. The end result is not. It's out of my control.
Yeah.
So I do. Particularly if I'm producing or I've written something, I'll watch more rigorously because I have to. But if I'm just hired for an acting job, I'll watch if it's it seems like it's something I want to watch. Some piece of film that I might want to keep. I'll generally watch stuff that I do, but not with great enthusiasm because I still don't feel comfortable watching myself.
yeah, I can barely watch home movies of myself.
It's a struggle for me to go through this podcast every 2 weeks. I have to be
listening
honest.
back, really.
Yeah.
I hate the sound of my own voice.
Well, it's also you've done it, so I got bored in the theatre because once I've done the show, it's like, okay, why do I have to do it again? I passed that exam.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Particularly with these things, an hour. The last thing I want to listen to is me talking for an hour after I've talked for an hour.
Yeah.
So with all due respect, I won't be listening to this because the reason I became an actor was I became an actor because I didn't want to be in the audience.
Yeah. I do a bunch of cool
I got-
edits to it, so it'll sound different. But yeah, no, I totally get that. Yeah, I've done podcasts before.
Yeah, he makes us sound competent.
Well, send it to me because what I end up doing is I flick through stuff if people send it to me. And there've been a couple, I have to confess, I did a couple of ones that were really fun. There's a show in England called My Time Capsule, where you have to, if you pick 5 things, 4 that you want to preserve forever in a time capsule, and 1 that you want to have buried forever. And it's a fun game, and it's an hour show. It's usually an hour to an hour and a half. and they've had some major celebs on it, and it's a really fun kind of thing. And I did listen to that, and it was that amused me. That amused me. It was the host was very funny, and so things like that I'll do where it's kind of, oh yeah, I don't that's not just me shitting.
Yeah.
Cheers.
I want to bring it back to like your role, playing Major Zero, if we can.
Yeah.
Do you have any like good
Yes.
memories of just like being in the booth and having a good time with that? Like
Yeah.
just like certain lines sticking out, or was there anything that you kind of did find odd with that character?
Adding on to Fingers' question, you were talking about, speaking to you and David Hayter's experiences as writers, and looking at your work and his, there's a little bit of a difference there, right? So, I mean, I'm very curious to see what those conversations were about, on top of, like Fingers said, just like your overall experience recording.
Do you mean the conversations about writing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, it was comparing and contrasting, and the difficulties of, getting studio notes on scripts and how you handle it, and doing rewrites and the process of getting a film made, how hard it is, and the hoops you have to jump through.
Mm-hmm.
And in his case, when you're on the studio bandwagon, replace writers every other week. So, I think he'd been through that experience a lot more than me. Independent world, the original writer often stays the whole way through. So there was a lot of those kind of conversations. The recording, I got to be brutally honest with you. A long time ago, my overriding memory of it, that it was like a marathon. There was so much material,
Mm-hmm.
and so much to get through every day. I kind of endurance game, as opposed to, gosh, I really remember. And most of it was instructional. So I'm not having dramatic scenes with people.
Yeah. Tons of head north. Yeah.
All right, let's go over this one more time. First, head north through the jungle. Enter the cave through the crevice to the north. Are we clear now?
Yeah.
Snake.
I got it. Basically, I just head north, right?
Ugh.
It was more like a narrating job.
Yeah.
Mhm.
In the sense that rather than an acting job. I think that colored it a little bit, so I don't have great memories of, oh yeah, that was a great scene. I remember we really were crackling, and I remember that we got that. It was more about just getting through these instructions and these things. The fun bits were where, I could be wry and dry and could play off each other and get some humor out of it. Because, I mean, I started in comedy, really, and early days I would mostly play comedy. So it was always fun for me to find the where you could be funny.
It is fun hearing Snake talk about like, all right, cool, I'm gonna get some coffee after this mission, and you're just like, you what? Like, it's just
Yeah.
him not having a cup of tea on the way home. It's just so insulting to your character. That's the kind of stuff that like sticks out for me.
Yeah.
Sipping hot coffee on a plane back home.
What did you say?
Hmm?
What did you say?
Sipping hot coffee on a...
You're gonna drink that foul mud? On the victory flight home?
Okay, then. What would you drink?
Tea, of course.
So I'd have to go. I should actually sort of play the game and go through it and jog my memory.
That'd be a fun Twitch stream, yeah.
These games do have a reputation for being kind of long-winded, so that doesn't
Yeah.
surprise me to hear. With voice acting, there's not really a lot of room for things like improvisation, is there? So you can't really freeform as much.
No, there isn't. I mean, certain jobs you can, but not like this. No, it's too specific. And a lot of animation, sort of TV animation, that you have to match to, to certain things. So a lot, and obviously my career, I've done a lot of improvised stuff as well. So, but I think you can change if something sounds awkward to you. Especially for me, if it's not written by a British person and there's a phrase that just doesn't sound right, just be open to saying, okay, how would you say it? So that's never been an issue.
Sort of tangential to this, God, I'm probably mispronouncing that word. I can never say that word correctly.
It sounded good to me.
Yeah, checks out.
I'm glad to hear that.
At least you didn't say tangential.
I love all the. I was watching like your comedy reel, and there's just that clip of you saying like, "Well, this thing kind of looks like gonorrhea." It's like there's just
I
whole
saw
conversation.
that.
It's like,
Yeah.
for me, I hadn't seen that side of stuff, and there's just a ton of projects that you've been involved in. I definitely want to check out now, where it's just like just the juxtaposition of like kind of what I'm used to with the characters that you play.
Yeah.
And then, when you have movies like, Kill Your Friends, where you're just kind of unhinged and going off, it's like, oh shit, it's awesome seeing that range,
That was fun. That was fun. I mean, the Emily Blunt stuff in 5-Year Engagement, that scene never ended up in the movie. I don't know if we ever got through it. I don't think we ever could do that bit of it without cracking up. It was so sad. It was my first day on the film, but we just made each other laugh. So unprofessional.
Check the deleted scenes.
Yeah.
I did want to ask though, and this is something I'm hoping to get an opportunity to ask more actors, more voice actors in general, because there's been so much conversation about it, and I'm kind of sick of hearing the peanut gallery on it. With regards to some of the AI driven tools, voice cloning, deepfakes, that kind of thing. Have you seen any of that? Do you have any thoughts on how that sort of started to work its way into Hollywood and into media in general?
No, I haven't really. I mean, I'm assuming it's going to mean less work for everybody. I don't know. The whole AI thing is terrifying to me. The only time I kind of go, I'm glad I'm the age I am, because it's terrifying. And everyone goes, well, AI could end up destroying us. Well, stop developing it then. Shut it down.
Oh, that
now.
won't happen.
It's like, yeah, I mean, if someone told you, well, nuclear power will actually destroy the world, stop it. Just stop it now. Of course it can, but we weren't told it will. But
no, we had to get to the brink first.
Exactly. But I keep being told AI will actually destroy the world. So people who know, I'm going, well, then don't develop it.
I just want to really quick point out the irony of Zero saying AI is scary.
Everybody stop. Yeah.
He's going to have no idea what you're talking about.
I know, it's just for us though.
I just pictured Zero wheeling into GW like, everybody shut it down now.
Yeah. This is the part where he disconnects from the call very discreetly.
Somebody told me that this was bad, so we need to shut it down now.
Your character pretty much ends up running like a whole AI control thing of like pretty much the whole world, and it's
as one tends to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, if I'm running it, it's different, of course.
Yeah.
It's the reason I bring it up is because there's been a lot of concern from voice actors specifically with regards to some of the voice cloning technology. I mean, there's been a lot of very funny videos on YouTube of Trump and Biden arguing over like what their favorite TV show or video game is, and it's hilarious because it's it sounds so convincing, and it takes a couple minutes of clear recording of a person's voice to effectively duplicate it, and it's just there have been concerns like, oh no, people are going to start using our voices for things, and this is sort of reaching into our pockets without our permission, and just there's a lot of concern in that area.
Well, I think like image rights and voice rights will probably become a thing, won't they? If you have voice rights, and it's like if someone steals your song, and they can prove that those chords were ripped off in voice. Yeah, I think if people are sort of image rights, voice rights, that'll all become an issue. But actors there won't be such a thing as an actor anymore.
I think that's like they're starting to like slip it into contracts and stuff too. Just like anything that you give us, we can kind of in perpetuity use from here on out, and construct these AI voice patterns off of what you've given us. So it's that's kind of the real scary part for me, is where they're just kind of like sneaking these things into the contract. So
that is we've got to get protection for that.
Yeah.
Well, there was the recent example in one of the Star Wars movies. They used CG to bring Peter Cushing in as a character that he had played. Who's been, sadly passed away for quite a while. And it was just very strange to see, like, here's an actor who passed away decades ago, suddenly in a new role, and we've used computers to sort of replicate his image and replicate his voice, and it's very strange to sort of see this this phenomenon of
I have no objection to that. I have no objection to that. I mean, listen, to have some sort of immortality for even if it's for 100 years after your death, I think is fantastic. But like books, if you are using passages from a book or selling the book, you got to pay the rights, the royalties to the estate of the surviving estate.
Yeah.
So I hope that Peter Cushing's estate was paid money for that. I mean, it's the same with music, anything. And it's just because the person's dead shouldn't prevent them being used, their work being used, or their image, or their voice, whatever. I think it's great to keep them alive through their work, but pay them or pay their estates.
Yeah.
Yeah, to my understanding, his family they did approve of it. So
Yeah, I mean, I think that's okay. I mean, I think that with books, because when I look at rights of things, I think 1923 they keep changing it, but that's when things come into the public domain. I mean, things before 1923, but that may have changed. But I remember when I was looking for rights on stuff as a producer, 1923 was always the magic kind of cutting off point, where after that you'd have to pay rights. So that could have changed.
it's gotten a little strange in the area of, say, where Amazon's taken it with their Alexa. I remember reading there was the Washington Post article talking about how they were developing a feature for Alexa that could read. I don't know if this was necessarily how it was being marketed or pushed, but the idea was that you could have the voice of a deceased relative read you stories. That's where I sort of raise an eyebrow.
It's a bit spooky, isn't it?
A little bit.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't have a massive objection to it. It's just a bit creepy, that
Definitely creepy. Yeah.
to me. It's a little weird.
As long as the computers don't kill us.
Well, yeah. That's what I'm saying. If people keep saying to me, "Oh, they will," then stop it now. It's like if you eat that plant, it'll kill you. Well, don't eat it then. It's not rocket science.
If there was ever like a there's always talks about remakes or the Metal Gear Solid movie or all these different things could happen down the road. If you were approached again to ever recast your role as Zero, and if the pay was good, of course, do you think you'd be open to playing that role again? Or
Absolutely, and it wasn't even how it was just as long as it was reasonable.
Yeah.
I listen. I don't need to work. It's like I'm not. I don't know, it's vulgar to talk about money, but I don't need to. It's not like I need to earn money. I'm fine for the rest of my life.
Yeah,
So
there's no shade in that at all. Like, yeah, it's more of it's a
well,
respect thing and a principle thing of like, look, man, like you're not
exactly.
giving me what I'm worth here, and we get that.
There's value to your work, yeah.
It's not a greed
Exactly,
thing. We're not looking at you like that. Don't get us wrong here. Like we support you in the whole thing of it. I'm a musician too, so I get arguing rates with people and all that stuff all the time. It's a hard fight out here.
Just keep it reasonable. I mean, David told me last time I saw David, we did a Streamily signing thing, and he said that there was plans to redo, and he said you'll probably be hearing from them. I said I wouldn't count on it because I don't know who did Major Zero after I did, but I don't know. Maybe they would come back to me, but I think my agents were pretty blunt with them. No, I'd absolutely be happy to if they ever did an on-camera thing. It would be fantastic. I may be too old now.
on camera or off camera. We definitely we'd appreciate you coming back. Like, you know, we had the Zero that showed up in the Phantom Pain, and you know, he did an all right job. I'm not gonna shade that at
Nah,
all either.
he
That
didn't do
that
a
was
bad
fine.
job, but I'll be
Yeah.
honest, that this kind of goes into Jim's point that there was just like this for a moment I didn't even realize it was Zero. There was just this disconnect not seeing the voice. And that's kind of the point we make about, you know, the voice sort of being the heart of it all, especially in video games where, you know, sometimes there are limitations that prevent folks from expressing themselves, and the voice is where you get the heart of the character. So no shade to that guy, but it just wasn't the same.
It was Time Winters, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think the fun for me doing it would be to come back, approach it, because it was sort of a bit like this was thrown at me and all this stuff, and it was sort of all bang, 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 bang. And it was in the midst of a fairly hectic time for me anyway. I think the fun would be to now come back and see the games and just approach it with a bit more kind of depth and knowledge.
Yeah.
A new dimension and bring an extra dimension to it. That would be the fun for me.
Yeah, we're telling you, man, it's a good story. Like we don't have a podcast about this game series and the creator behind it for nothing. Like it's one of the best stories ever told, you know, in my opinion. And
see, I'm afraid to say that because I don't want him to say that and then him visit the game and he's like, "Oh my god, this is dog shit. These people are crazy."
It's a little weird.
this guy's spinning a revolver and meowing out here. Like, what the fuck? It's oddball for sure, but I think you'll appreciate the humor and how it all comes together for sure. I mean, it's a good package, especially just Snake Eater alone as a story. It's self-contained and great.
It's an interesting historical fiction at the very least. Yeah.
It's American blockbuster films through the lens of a Japanese creator, and it's very interesting.
Oh, good. Well, I mean, there's a lot of people I know who know the game very well and have said to me it's terrific. So I trust them.
Yeah. Definitely worth checking out if you got some spare time.
Yeah, no, I've got somebody gave me an Xbox, I think it was Christmas, and I haven't hooked it up yet, so I should probably look at it.
Nice, yeah, just play through it. There you go. That's the best way. You get the full experience, you know.
Yeah,
I have to laugh at us all trying to sell Jim on Metal Gear Solid 3. It's so funny.
Bro, you got to play MGS3.
yeah.
Maybe I think we should start with Super Mario Brothers and work up, you know?
I've tried to sell many a person on this game, but I never thought it would be you, Jim. I really never thought it'd be you.
I'm happy to try. It's finding the time, you know. It's finding the time to do it.
And then Apache Smash, actually, he runs through these games blindfolded. Like he can play the games all the way through blindfolded, and he's that passionate about it and speed runs them and beats them in an incredible amount of time. So you know you've got communities behind these series that are that hardcore about it. It's
So how long would it take to go through the whole one of those games?
You could do I was thinking about it. You could do maybe like a co-stream, or just like a co-play. Apache could play it for you, and you could kind of observe.
Jim, I would love to do
Oh.
that. It would take about 5-6 hours to go through 3. I would love to do
Wow.
With all the cutscenes,
Wow.
yeah. But the gameplay, he can just speed through for you.
I could have sworn there was more to it than that, but my memories.
that. We can take breaks and stuff, but if you ever wanted to do anything like that, I'd love to do that.
Wow. All right. Well, you have to let me know how to get in touch with you, and if I ever have a spare day. I tell you where I gave up. I gave up video. I didn't give up. I tried video games. So I bought FIFA, one of those soccer games at
Yeah.
Heathrow Airport. One of the first ones, about probably 30 years ago. Yeah, probably 30 years ago. And I bought that game, came back, and my wife and daughter went out for the day. And I said, I'll give this a try. And they came back about 8 hours later, and I hadn't got up from the seat except to go to the bathroom. Apart from going to the bathroom, and maybe
Yeah, that's a warning.
grab something to eat. It was so addictive. And I'd taken my team, Crystal Palace, to win the FA Cup final, I think. So that was good. But then I basically said that I can't, I would become addicted. I don't have a massively addictive personality. I'm quite obsessive, but I'm not addictive at all. But I said no. So I gave it away the next day. I gave it to a friend.
I love that. I love that your experience of playing video games was taking Crystal Palace to their rightful glory of winning the FA Cup.
Absolutely. I'm the only person that's taken them to win a trophy. God damn it! I'm gonna live off that one.
They also have football manager games where you don't have to actually play the football. You could just play the manager.
Yeah.
You just make all the decisions and buy the players and stuff.
Yeah, that's not bad. I think that's probably more my speed, more cerebral.
We'll gift you that at the end of the Apache Jim co-stream from MGS3.
Wow.
Oh man.
I cannot wait. Oh, something's come up here.
Everything all right over there?
Yeah. So
okay,
came
cool.
up on the screen.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, we didn't want to take up too much of your time. I know we're over an hour here. Didn't want to, just keep on going on and on.
Good Lord, how did time flies?
Yeah, it's been great.
I would ask you to tell us where people could find you, but I think the answer would be everywhere.
I'm on Twitter at Real Jim Piddock. Twitter. I'm in and out on Twitter. I'm quite political, so if that will bore you, just tears if you're not political. But I can.
I saw you backing Gary Lineker.
Yes, I can be amusing occasionally on Twitter. I was backing Gary.
You got to back Gary.
And Facebook I'm on, and Instagram I dip in and out of. I haven't done a lot lately. I got sort of again after doing the book, I got so burnt out on all the media and social media stuff.
Yeah.
And I just I got it was too much, and it's sort of it's draining. And let's be honest, when you get off Instagram or Twitter, you feel better about your life? Do you feel better as a person? Do you feel happier than when you got on it?
Almost immediately.
That's the only way I survived the 2020 year of 2020 is just turning it off.
Is being on. I find it sort of. It doesn't do it for me. Ultimately, I don't feel my life is better. It's like reading newspapers. Very rarely do I read a newspaper and think, "Oh, my life's better now. I feel in a better mood than I did." Well, I mean, on social media is all about attacking people or telling you how great their life is, and so it's. I don't know. I don't know that it's always good. I enjoy it sometimes. I enjoy engaging with people, particularly if it's kind of humorous and there's some banter. I tend to use it more just for keeping in touch or getting news. But there's very rare that I can spend 20 minutes or half an hour on Twitter and end that 20 minutes and say I feel in a better mood because of it, or I feel uplifted. Same with Instagram. I don't go, oh, I'm so glad I did that. I feel so much better about the world and about life. That's just me.
It's definitely addictive, and you can get there and like kind of just not like reflexively, like you opened it up and you're like, oh, here I am on Twitter again. Like you kind of disassociate and all of a sudden you snap to and you're like, oh, I'm scrolling again. Shit.
That's what
like,
I did on Reddit yesterday when it was down.
Yeah.
I was like, shit, Reddit's down. I guess I got to touch grass. And then I touched grass for a little bit and then try to get back on Reddit.
It's such a caricature of real life.
It's so weird. I mean, also the people out there. I mean, I don't know. I'm tired of just blocking people.
We've seen some of the things you've had to deal with. Yeah. And
it's very hyper real out here. It's just like an exaggeration of everything that's going on. And it's just, it's kind of silly.
Shout out to Jean Baudrillard.
It's like Camelot.
It is a silly place.
When you type a one-line kind of quip, semi-serious to something, you get you get 1,000 people liking it, or whatever, which is lovely. But then you'll get 50 fucking idiots who go, "You're a moron," spelled Y-O-U-R. You're a moron,
it's hard to tell much of it's ironic too.
I think that they're all people with 2 followers or under single digits. They've been on Twitter for less than 2-3 months, and you go, these are just bots or people who are looking to just troll the left wing, right wing, whatever. I happen to
Yeah.
be quite liberal, but not super liberal. I just happen to believe that. You know, I mean, the whole woke thing is astonishing to me. It's like, what does that mean? I love that. I don't know if you saw that clip yesterday of some Republican shill who's.
They asked her to define it,
Oh, it's brilliant.
and she just stopped.
She's brilliant.
And she said, "I know this is going to be a viral moment." And it's like, yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
But it's just, I mean, it's to me, it's astonishing that there's a man that's going to run for president whose entire manifesto is anti-woke. That is it. He hasn't got anything to offer. There's no policy.
It's like, what does that even mean?
I know. What is it? Well, that's the big thing, is what is woke anyway. And by the way, I'm very much against what you might call overwoke, people being overly offended by everything. That drives me crazy. But basically, woke just means you're sensitive to other people's feelings, and particularly if they're a minority or an oppressed group. That's all. If that's woke, then good. Most good people are woke. But to make it a dirty word, it's like, liberal means free. That word means free. So why would liberal be a dirty word? It's just mental to me.
Social media sort of comes in and it just obliterates the signal to noise ratio.
Yeah. And by the way,
It's very difficult to tell what is actually of value and what is just rambling.
Yes, that's true. And what is just made up crap, because there's so much stuff out there that people just make up.
It's a big overarching theme with Metal Gear Solid 2. If you check out that one, you can kind of get into that,
Really?
that whole. Kojima predicted it.
Shut up.
Thank you so much, Jim. We really appreciate you coming on, and it's been an honor talking to you.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure talking to you guys. I'm glad it worked out technically.
Yeah, this definitely works. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you so much.
This was like my meeting Anthony Hopkins.
Oh, that's very sweet of you to say so, and I don't believe you for a second, but thank you. I appreciate that.
Thanks.
Very, very flattering, and it's very kind to say so. And now, I have to go cook dinner. That's my mission.
Okay, thank you.
All right, have a good dinner, Jim. Thank you so much.
I hope you have a delicious meal.
Have a great evening.
You too. Thanks so much.